This week, the remaining 56 asylum seekers aboard the Oceanic Viking disembarked, signalling a tidy ending to the boat people debate.
Asylum seekers from the Oceanic Viking are beginning their first full day on dry land in more than a month.
Ah, good. I'm glad that the asylum seeker debate can once more be packed away for another 8 years until we can dust it off again and have Wilson Tucky say something offensive about foreigners again. Although naturally there are a few loose ends to tie up.
Well, they are very glad to disembark from the vessel, hoping that Australia keep the promise to come to Australia.
There's no guarantee that they'll come to Australia. That was never part of the offer.
Shit. Chris Evans, Minister for Immigration, we were so close to wrapping this up. You offer them a special deal, which you deny is a special deal. They get off the boat, get processed, come to Australia. Done. Finished. All right, while we're sorting this snafu out, what are the asylum seekers?
The Sri Lankan asylum seekers who finally quit the Oceanic Viking last night are billeted in an Indonesian detention centre tonight.
Women and children will be accommodated in the building next to this one.
Is that part of the detention centre?
This is detention centre and that one is not detention centre.
Wow, he's like an Indonesian Rudd with the glasses and the saying things that we clearly know is a lie. Just to run that by you again, men in a building under lock and key, detention centre. Women and children next door under lock and key, not a detention centre. Well, moving on to the politics of climate change.
Kevin Rudd is determined to get his emissions trading scheme through Parliament within the next week.
The problem is, it seems, that the opposition has some amongst their ranks that won't be voting for this emissions trading scheme whatever the negotiations.
Rebel Liberals are lining up to vote against the government's emissions trading bill, led by Nick Minchin, who's labelled it an abomination.
Mr Rudd's arrogance and vanity in wanting to lead the world on cutting CO2 emissions is really sickening.
You know what I love most about climate change skeptics? They are so universally panned for their beliefs that I'm more or less able to take any pot shots at them that I like. I mean, Nick Minchin is trying to bag out Kevin Rudd for wanting to cut CO2 emissions. Next thing we'll know, he'll be telling us that CO2 isn't all that bad.
It really is a disgrace to describe CO2 as a pollutant.
It really is. It's molecule character assassination, it is. Insensitive scientists tarring all CO2 with the same brush. It's stereotyping. Why, Senator Minchin? Why do you put yourself through it? Is this some sort of grudge from Year 10 science when you were balancing an atomic equation and forgot to multiply the oxygen atoms instead of adding them, and now you're getting your revenge on the scientific community? Why, Mr. Minchin? Why? Why do you persist with it? It doesn't even matter anymore. The government's power has grown too strong. Look who their latest ally is.
The government's latest weapon is the weather itself, searing heat coinciding with the parliamentary showdown.
See? Now Kevin Rudd has firefighters and the weather on his side. Right or wrong, this legislation is going through. But what does this emissions trading scheme really mean for Australians? I mean, I need a simple metaphor. National Senator Barnaby Joyce?
A metaphor is where we go to the world and pull our strides down and everybody else stands back and laughs at us.
Cheers, Barnaby. Oceanic Viking departees and climate change skeptics, you've been Newsitorialized.